Welcome to my channel, Veterans Legacy, where every story is a heartbeat pulled from the shadows of history, where truth, sacrifice, and courage meet in the most unexpected places. Tonight, I want you to sit back, breathe, and let your chest open wide, because what you're about to hear is not just a story. It is a moment frozen in time, a collision of memory and honor, a reminder that some heroes never brag, never boast, and never forget. The base was unusually quiet that morning, a quiet that felt wrong. Like the world was holding its breath. Fort Brighthall, once a roaring hub of drills, shouting sergeants, and thunderous boots, had settled into a slower rhythm. Most of its soldiers were young, hopeful, and untested, their uniforms crisp, their spirits high. Yet amidst all this youth, one man moved like a misplaced relic of another era. The janitor. His name was Walter Briggs. 76 years old, thin, stooped, with silver hair that hovered like a faint halo around his weather-beaten face. He pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway with a limp that told a story no one had cared enough to ask. Most soldiers ignored him, some nodded politely, a few whispered jokes behind his back. No one knew who he was. No one knew what he had been. No one knew what he still carried inside him. But they were about to. It was almost noon when the echoing thunder of an arriving helicopter rattled the windows. The soldiers rushed outside, forming into neat rows. The air swirled with dust and anticipation. A long black car rolled up to the briefing building, and an imposing figure stepped out. Colonel Nathaniel Harrow, decorated, ruthless, feared by many, respected by all. His return to Fort Brighthall was unexpected. Rumors said he was here to evaluate the base, to decide whether it would be downsized. Others whispered he'd come to root out incompetence. Some believed he was here to find someone. Whatever the truth, the air changed the moment he set foot on the concrete. Harrow stood tall, scanning the soldiers with steel blue eyes that saw everything and forgot nothing. The younger recruits straightened so sharply their backs nearly cracked. Inside the building, Walter the janitor paused, broom in hand, tilting his head at the familiar voice booming outside. That voice, he recognized it, though he told himself it couldn't be. The troops snapped to attention as Colonel Harrow walked the line. Discipline, he barked. Respect. Awareness. These are lifelines, not decorations. His voice rippled through the courtyard like a drill sergeant's whip. But then something strange happened. Harrow suddenly turned, lifting his chin toward the East Barracks, the old ones, barely used anymore. And he shouted an order. A single command, sharp, precise, and utterly unfamiliar to every soldier standing before him. Standard Echo Formation. Line 2. Strike ready. The young troops exchanged confused glances. Strike ready. Echo Formation. Line 2. Whispers rippled across the courtyard. They had no idea what those words meant. Colonel Harrow's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. No one, he growled. No one knows the protocol for that order. Silence wrapped around the soldiers like a shroud. Harrow stepped forward, disappointment shadowing his stern features. Has the legacy of this base truly faded so far? He murmured. The wind blew. A door creaked, and from inside the East Wing hallway, an old janitor's broom hit the floor. Dash dash dash. Walter Briggs stepped out slowly. His limp seemed to vanish. His back straightened. His shoulders rolled back as if remembering armor that wasn't there. And then, the soldiers watched, stunned, as the frail janitor snapped into a stance so sharp, so precise, so flawlessly executed that it sliced through the stillness like a blade. His heel clicked, his chin lifted, his chest expanded like a drum ready to be struck. In a loud, unwavering voice that belonged to a man decades younger, he barked. Echo Formation. Standard Protocol. Reporting strike ready, Colonel. The soldiers' jaws dropped. Colonel Harrow froze. And then, his eyes softened. His breath hitched. No one had ever seen him look like that. Slowly, painfully slowly, Harrow walked toward the old man, each step echoing like thunder in the stunned silence. When he reached Walter, his mask broke. His voice dropped to a whisper only those closest could hear. Briggs, I thought you were gone. Walter's throat tightened, but his eyes remained fixed straight ahead. Not gone, sir. Just forgotten. Harrow's face twisted with something that looked painfully close to guilt. The soldiers watched, breathless. Who was this janitor? Why did a colonel speak to him like that? What history lived between them? Colonel Harrow finally stepped back and faced the troops. "Recruits," he said, his voice trembling ever so slightly, "the man you see before you is Master Sergeant Walter Briggs, a veteran of the Iron Veil campaign. The operation that saved more lives than any other mission in this base's history." Gasps rolled through the ranks. Many had heard of the Iron Veil campaign, a mission so dangerous it bordered on suicidal. Few survived. Even fewer ever spoke of it. Walter Briggs, the janitor, had been one of them. Harrow went on. "Master Sergeant Briggs led Echo Unit, the only team trained in the protocol I just gave. They were the backbone of this base. 12 men entered Iron Veil. Only 2 made it out." A hush fell. "Only 2. Harrow's voice faltered. "Briggs, and me." The courtyard felt like a beating heart that had suddenly stopped. Walter lowered his head. "Sir," he said softly, "I was a soldier then. Now I'm just a man with a mop." Harrow shook his head. "No, you were, and one of the greatest soldiers this country ever produced." A tear slid down Walter's cheek, catching the sunlight like a tiny shard of glass. "Then why," he whispered, "did no one remember Echo Unit? Why did no one remember my men, my brothers?" Harrow's jaw clenched. "That is my failure," he admitted. The soldiers looked on, deeply moved. "This base," Harrow said loudly, "was rebuilt so fast after Iron Veil that the true heroes faded into paperwork and archives. I was younger then, drowning in responsibilities. And I let the world forget the ones who should never be forgotten." He turned to the troops. "And today, before all of you, I will correct that mistake." Harrow motioned toward the flagpole. "Form up," he barked. Even though they still didn't understand what Echo Formation truly was, the soldiers obeyed. The colonel stepped beside the old janitor. "Briggs," he said quietly, "would you do the honor?" Walter swallowed hard. "Sir, it's been many years." "And still," Harrow said, "you remember the order better than anyone here." Walter closed his eyes. He could hear them, the voices of his fallen men, laughing, shouting, calling his name. He could smell the smoke of battle, the cold steel of weapons, the scent of the earth soaked in sacrifice. He could feel the weight of their memory pressing against his heart. When he opened his eyes again, the years had fallen away. His legs were steady, his spine was straight, his voice was iron. "Echo Unit," he said softly, "this one's for you." He took the rope in his weathered hands and began pulling. The flag rose slowly, steadily, majestically. As it reached the top, Walter lifted his trembling hand to salute. And every soldier, every single one, snapped into a perfect salute beside him, some with tears, some with awe, all with respect. Even the wind stopped to listen. Colonel Harrow stepped beside Walter. "From this day forward," he said, "Echo Protocol will be taught again. Your legacy will return to this base, where it belongs." Walter nodded, a tear slipping free. "Thank you, sir. And Briggs." "Yes." Harrow's voice softened. "You are not forgotten. Not anymore. And for the first time in decades." Walter Briggs smiled. A real, full smile. The kind that belonged to a soldier who finally found peace. As the sun dipped behind the barracks and golden light bathed the courtyard, the young soldiers lingered, staring at the flagpole, feeling the weight of history on their shoulders. They would tell this story for the rest of their lives. The day the old janitor snapped to attention. And the world remembered who he truly was. If this story moved you, if it stirred even a spark of pride or emotion in your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Veterans Legacy, where heroes live on, through every story we tell.